I think you're trying to be
in this manner.
nice, and that's cool,
Yeah,
but you
I
gotta
think
take care of yourself. Like, I'm just
Oh,
saying,
no,
like,
for
be
sure, and
careful.
I've already moved to, like, a different area, and I'm trying to
Yeah,
make
yeah,
sure it's
that's.
gonna
I
be
think you did the right thing, man.
with
If I had to rank it on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad
pretty
is
bad.
that? That's pretty fucking bad.
solid 7 right
Yeah.
there.
May I ask a question, or may I ask you guys' opinion on something?
No.
Sure.
Go.
Maybe.
No.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
just
Yeah, I'm in my
woman.
Just
So-
don't ask questions. Just ask the question.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay,
Go
so
ahead,
here's
go
the
ahead.
I feel it's a little bit so okay, so
Certified mom moment.
I'm living like a little bit nomadically right now. Yesterday morning, this guy, I was in my
I
friend's
love
car
the
charging stuff.
Mongols.
This guy knocks on my window, and
Cool.
he's like, "Hey, you know, like I've seen you, I've seen you kind of like around here. I've seen you." Like, he's like, "I'm kind of like camping out too. You know, like my car is that one up there. You know, can I get you anything from Dunkin' Donuts? I'm going up to the gas station." I was like, "Oh my God, that's so
Sounds
sweet." He was like a really
kinda-
nice guy. So I was like, "I'll walk with you." We walked up there. Everything was like perfectly nice. I get back, I realize that my friend's car battery has died. So I'm like, "Oh fuck, I have to jump the car. Can you help me?" He's being really like the whole time being very friendly, like very normal. I like, everything is fine. So I start looking for I couldn't figure out how to pop the trunk because the key, like the electric key wouldn't let me do it. And so I'm looking for some kind of like a lever around the seat. And as I'm like trying to figure out where it is, he's giving me suggestions, and I realize that he's like standing so close by me. He's pressing, like I can feel his dick against my butt, and he's like
Oh,
he's like
whoa.
I
just
like where this is
just
going.
hovering, like his hands
I don't
aren't like
like this at
his
all. That's
hands
weird.
aren't on me, but he's so physically, like I can feel him physically like close, and he's kind of like grinding into me. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, maybe it's accidental, maybe he's like looking for I can give you kind of a pass for this instant. So, and he's giving me no reason to feel uncomfortable so far. So I'm like, okay, I get out of the situation, like a little weird, can't find the thing. So I'm trying to look through the trunk from like the back seat. So I'm kind of like
Mhm.
in the middle of the car, kind of like hanging over the edge. And I realize again, he's kind of like his hands aren't on me, but he's like physically kind of like grinding like his dick up like against me. And I'm like, okay, this is starting to get to like kind of a weird
What do you mean,
place.
kind of a weird? That's a bit.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. And
We hear the
this is what comes up in these
Let him
situations.
finish.
This is what happens in these
Already
situations a lot.
kind of
There's
weird.
just enough. I feel like if I turned around and I said, "Hey, buddy, keep your dick off of me," in some kind of like a "Hey, this is making me uncomfortable" way, he has enough plausible deniability to be like, "Whoa, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I'm not fucking
Well,
grinding my
just
dick up
at
against
least
you, like you
ask him
bitch."
for
Sounds like
personal,
Matt Logan.
Right.
right?
And so,
Personal
but the
space,
whole
maybe.
Right, and the whole thing is like in those situations, like he wasn't stopping me from like maneuvering away from him. Like I was able, like in no way was he kind of like following me or making me feel like I couldn't get away from it. And so like in these
Mhm.
situations,
No, yeah.
I'm kind of unsure of like, so I'm unsure of what to do because like I
Hold
don't
on.
want
He
to like write
was,
him.
right? You felt like he was doing that, but there wasn't enough evidence for you to conclusively say it. So you felt
Yes,
like he might, but it wasn't conclusive. So your response needs to not be conclusive. You just say,
right.
"Hey, can you give me a little bit of space?" And then if
Yeah.
he doesn't, well, now you know. But if he
Well,
does,
my
maybe
question
it
is
was a
more
faux
because
pas.
you're right, and that's exactly because I really don't want to. I don't like the idea of like jumping to the conclusion that this guy is some kind of like creepy dude because he was very nice and like nothing else gave me
Well,
these red
homeless
flags.
people often have mental issues, so it's not
Yeah.
unreasonable to assert some
Right, and
boundaries.
right,
Also,
and
you
the thing
have
for
to.
me is that like he now knows. So my question is, moving forward, it's like, do I feel uncomfortable enough, or do I feel like I'm vulnerable enough to like move away from the areas that like he knows? Because he's saying that he'd seen me around like
I mean,
at this
that's up to
library
you.
and at
Do
this
you
park,
think that?
right? And well, so this is what I'm
I'm
grappling with. Is like I'm very conflicted because on the one hand, like he was offering me help. He helped me out. He was like, which is something that a lot of people don't do. A lot of people, just tell you to fuck off. At the same time, it's like I don't know if I want, because I'm in a vulnerable situation myself. I don't know if I feel like I have to be careful about like I don't want to find myself, alone at night in a park with this guy and
Then
have
what
like
it
nobody
sounds like
around
you're
and nobody
trying to
there.
Box.
conceptualize is that you might be in a position where these type of interactions might just intrinsically be too risky because you're so
Right.
vulnerable generally. And then the only solution there would not be whether or not he's appropriate. The only solution would be you need to get out of being in a vulnerable position so you can engage in those things again.
which is
No,
very
no,
true and
no
very
guy,
valid.
no
in
guy is
that little
rubbing his
particular
dick on your ass
pertains
and
to
doesn't know
exactly
what he's
this.
doing. That's all
Fox,
I'm gonna say.
He might
I
not,
would
but
say,
it doesn't matter.
honestly, I would say,
That's what I'm
because
saying. He
get
definitely
rid of
do.
this dude
So.
or whoever the hell it is. Like, I wouldn't accept anything like in the future from it. If you like need $100, I'll throw you $100.
Well, no, and I didn't even accept. The
But
thing
like,
is, like, I'm
no,
very. I didn't even accept like a coffee from him. Like,
no, right,
that's
right.
kind of my. Yeah.
Let me just finish it, please, because I feel like this is like a little bit
Oh
dangerous,
yeah, go
right?
go.
Is the guy being able, because it could be, because it's very true, right? It could be a guy who's just a little bit awkward, maybe hasn't had a friend in a while, maybe he's misunderstanding what you're doing because maybe you like he feels you're presenting your ass towards him and he's just taking the opportunity or like in his frame of reference or whatever. It's all weird. At the end of the day, though, like you just have to wait. Like the worst potential that can happen, right, is like or realistic thing like some sort of sexual assault or like rape or blah, like that's horrible, right? Versus the benefit of having this buddy is whatever is in this community. Like honestly, I weigh those two and be like, I'm not going to go to like the extreme of like you just can't have friends anywhere. But like this particular individual who sets this up because they recognize, they know this, they know that you go to certain things. They've been watching you long enough to figure out you're a woman and you're probably alone. They have gotten themselves so familiar with the idea and comfortable with you that they thought it would be appropriate to like immediately attempt to make a move by putting their dick or two or something like that.
Wait a
Right?
minute,
Do
that's
not
a
let
big
someone
assumption
face-
to make. That's a big assumption
how
to
you
make.
feel
How
about
many
it.
times have you been in that
No,
situation
you're right. It
before?
is a big assumption to make.
No,
I'm
we
not
just
saying
ask
it's not
her.
a big assumption.
Let's just ask her and we'll
Right.
find out if it's an assumption. How many times have you been in that similar situation, in that same place? First of all, let's understand. Does he actually know you?
No.
No.
Okay, so then how does he know that he's been monitoring you and he's like the
Because
guy
he
just...
said, "I've
Because he
seen you
said
here."
I've seen you. He said I've seen you at the
Yes,
library.
he
I've seen
Okay,
you at the park.
okay.
I've seen you sleeping
My
here
bad, I
with
didn't
women."
hear that. My bad, I didn't hear that. All right,
Right.
cool.
So with all that being said,
I don't think you
the
should let
weight
yourself
of the
get
two
cased
is
out.
just to me not equal. Where I personally like just decline it. Right. If you want to find a different friend, go find a different friend. But like, if the potential for things to go wrong with this individual, there's way too many red flags, in my opinion, to be ignored for your safety.
Yeah,
It's
no,
not worth
no
it.
guy, no sane guy takes the first move on a girl by fucking rubbing his dick on her ass. Like, that's not that's not the first move you make.
Depends
Maybe
on
a
the
little bit.
situation. Depends on the
Like,
situation.
Music
most,
playing.
You know,
Even if a girl starts
lasers.
coming on to me strongly, my first move to like gauge that isn't put my dick on their ass. Like,
Depends
Here's
on the
thing, if you're
situation.
dancing
The
with somebody at a
assumption that that's
nightclub
what he
and
was
like,
doing. She said it
right.
wasn't conclusive. It could have been benign. It seems like it might not be, but we don't know. But the
Well,
solution there is
I'm,
you're not in a position to isolate yourself and to protect yourself. So you need to be extra cautious. And it sounds like you're so vulnerable that you might not want to engage with this person or anybody else that is like that right now.
Yeah, and I
wait,
think
and-
mostly the thing for me is that it feels like, because I really I try to be conscientious about about jumping to conclusions about guys intentions, because I've seen that I see my male friends be incredibly hurt by like offering to help somebody, offering to help a woman do something, and like having them immediately be treated as some kind of like a predator. Or like my friend was like
Yeah.
walking down
You're
the beach
not
taking pictures of
obligated
the
to
sunset.
concede your safety for other
Yeah.
people's
Right,
perceived
Yeah,
benefit.
yeah,
real
yeah.
quick,
And I think
I'm
I
also
think
gonna
there's a
challenge.
like
difference
this
in my
who
mind.
are predators. Like,
I'm-
I've never had my dick resting on somewhere that I didn't know. Like,
Yeah,
if you're
men
saying
know
it
where their
was
dicks are.
physically, if you
I
say it was
did.
physically resting against your ass for 1 second, 2 seconds, doesn't fucking matter. Unless he said, "Oh, sorry, I bumped into you" or something. But if he was leaving it there and like not saying anything about it, he knew what he was doing. Like, I've never put my dick somewhere that I didn't.
Wait, you keep saying that, bro, but what about clubs, bro? Like I'm saying it depends on the
Club, yeah, club. Are
situation.
we in a fucking club, dog?
Specific situation. We're talking about
Are
this
we
very
in a club?
Okay,
We're not in
okay.
a
In this
club, dog.
specific
And even in
situation,
this
fine.
situation,
Oh
very
my god,
specific
bro.
situation.
Obviously, there's situations where like you literally cannot avoid like being up next to someone, and there's like you're like, oh, okay, this is understandable, but this isn't that situation. She's outside.
Okay,
like,
bro,
in a
I
normal
understand
space.
that. That's why I said it
Right,
depends
right,
on the
right.
situation, innit?
Simple, we still understand.
Well, that's when you put your hands up in the air and you're like, I'm not meant to do anything.
Wave
Like,
them like you
you
just don't care.
vocalize. You have a mouth. Like,
Yeah, like 100%. Like this.
Well,
This
so
was
here's the
malicious
thing for
intent.
me. Here's the thing for me. I feel like
malicious
men can
the thing
speak
that
to
I
women. Okay, I know that's hard.
Wait, how?
Let Fox
I
say what
don't
she was
know.
gonna say. I'm interested.
That's
well,
pretty
I was just going to say that I think for me the thing that I would be uncomfortable doing, because I think you're absolutely right. Like in this situation, the fact that my gut is telling me that like this isn't that I feel wary of this is enough for me to say like, all right, I need to change up my routine. I need to put myself in a safer place and like cover my bases, because I think that's absolutely valid. the one thing that, and I think that the difference is, I think there's a difference between turning to him and saying something to him and saying you need to correct your behavior, or like you did something wrong, and like like asserting that to him, versus just saying, you know what, I'm just going to like remove myself and like not address it to him, or like does that make any sense?
You don't.
Fox,
You're away
Fox,
from the
you're
guy now.
right.
You're
If
not
it
with
was
your
your
friend. You
friend
don't need
or
to
somebody
re-engage.
long term,
Yeah,
if
you
it's
don't need
somebody
to
your friend,
re-engage.
it's somebody your long term, do that, right? Where like address it, where it's a mistake. But like a stranger that you just met and doing all that stuff, I think then is you don't know the person, know how they will react, right? You just leave. Royal said it
Yeah.
best. It is true where a lot of homeless people do have like mental issues or whatever. Because the guy and all like even because I personally believe you all men know where their dick are. I know if my dick is resting on a woman's ass or something like that.
And
Right?
it was enough of like a thing that I didn't feel like a casual like something, like it felt like there was some like there was enough of a thing there that I had a red flag. And the thing for me is like, again, like I really do I think that mostly what I was feeling is this like friction between the idea of somebody being nice, somebody trying to be helpful, somebody like trying, in my mind, like trying to do a nice thing for somebody, and then feeling guilty for feeling like, oh, you know, maybe there's some like malintent
But
behind it, and like
the
not being
reason,
sure.
yeah, the
But I think I
reason
feel
it
like it's
sounds like in this
justified in.
situation, the reason it sounds like he was being nice and things was to try and get you to go put your guard down. Unfortunately, which is
Well, yeah, and I don't
shitty.
want to make that
And like,
assumption, but I think
yeah,
I'm
but when,
reasonable in like coming to the
Well, this
conclusion
is
that
the
it's
No,
not a
hard.
safe
that's fair.
situation.
That's a
fair
fair
enough to
take.
not make that assumption up until the point he's got his dick on your ass. Like, like you said about like your friends getting annoyed or like upset with like women assuming. I feel the same way, but at the end of the day, I understand that there's enough people like this guy that do shit like this that unfortunately you can't. There's just no way to tell the difference between normal guys and these creeps. So you just unfortunately you do get caught in the crossfire sometimes if you are a normal guy, but that's just the way it is. Unfortunately, it sucks.
Also, you
Yeah,
said
like
that
there
this
will be like
happened
there are times at
multiple
night if I'm
times,
walking
though.
around like alone at night and like I see a woman like walking on herself, like I'll go around like another street just to make her feel like comfortable. Like it makes perfect sense. Like it's just
I do that
the
with white
reality.
people.
Okay,
Bro,
that's a little different.
honestly,
Like,
this
you know,
guy
I
doesn't
don't
seem
feel-
in the right mind. Honestly, in your example,
Wait,
this
hold
guy
on.
doesn't seem in the right
Actually,
mind.
hold on. Actually, I retract that previous
I
statement
think
because
he's
white people have
definitely in the
guns.
right
Okay,
mind.
white people are packing.
He
Okay?
is?
You don't want
Yeah,
He's in a different way,
doing
baby.
it intentional. He's like, that's
Yes.
why he's in the right. He knows what he's doing.
Yes,
Yeah.
he does know what he's
So
doing, but
this is the whole
he's
thing is like Destiny talks about this. He mentioned this just in terms of like of approaching women. He said that like I think this was like it was pretty recent. Said that part of the issue with these situations is that a lot of the time a lot of the time men will, when they're approaching women, they leave themselves enough plausible deniability. It was when he's talking to Farah about being approached by that guy on the beach and how she lied and said that she had a boyfriend even though that she didn't, because she wanted to like kind of let him down gently, and she was wondering, you know, what would men want her to do in that situation, lie or like be honest and like tell him I'm not interested. And Destiny said basically like, look, the issue is that men are they're going to leave themselves plausible deniability because they don't want to, it's less vulnerable, right? Like that way if you get rejected you could say, oh, you know, like screw you, you know, I wasn't hitting on you, even if there was that kind of like even subconscious like element to it. And I think that that's valid. I think that's fair to like protect yourself.
yeah, but I don't
emotionally
think
because
that
you're very
covers your
vulnerable.
situation.
No,
I
I'm not
really
saying it
don't.
does. I'm
That
not saying it
yours
does.
is a
I'm not
very
saying it does.
extreme example. I'm just
For
telling
sure,
you.
for sure, for sure.
It's
I'm just
very
saying, in general, I think this is
Yeah.
something that comes up. Like I think that these feelings of like, oh, am I comfortable like making assumptions about somebody's internal mental state or about their intentions? Like I think these things come up.
I think you're
you
trying
know,
to be
in this
nice, and that's cool,
Yeah,
but you
I
gotta
think
take care of yourself. Like I'm just
No,
saying,
no,
like
for
be
sure. And
careful.
I've already moved to like a different area, and I'm
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
going
That's.
to
I
be.
think you did the right thing, man.
I would probably also
curiosity
report
or anything. Like, I can understand if he accidentally bumped into you and he said, "Oh, sorry," and moved back. If
Yeah.
he's leaving it there, at that point, you can't make any assumptions anymore. You just
Yeah,
like he was
yeah, yeah.
being fucking
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
yeah.
But this guy was literally grinding on you. Like it was totally fucking intentional. He's never spoken to you before. There's never been a conversation. He was just like, yeah, I've seen you here and there. Let me grind up on you. Yeah. Bro, before this event, before this
before the
example.
I'm not
interaction, before
defending the
this
guy's actions, but
Yeah, I
the
know,
whole
but
idea is like they were in bed together, right? Isn't that what
No.
was
what?
This is a
No,
homeless
literally,
man.
she was trying to pop the hood, and he was
Oh,
supposedly
yeah.
helping,
Fuck, never
but he was a
mind.
little too
Forget it.
close.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's so
Bro,
much
like-
worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The weirder
bro.
one, the weirder one was when I was in the
Basically letting us
car.
know.
Well, I'm gonna let you
Never
off the hook for that
mind.
one, my
That's
guy.
like borderline harassment. Like, I'm not one for calling harassment, but bro, that's like, huh?
It's borderline because it's not conclusive. If it were conclusive, this would be much easier.
Right,
But
right.
the response is, yeah, you just needed to get away from that and be away from that
Yep,
guy.
yep,
It's too risky.
yep.
And I appreciate that because I think that I think I'm somebody who tends to like I'm very empathetic and I tried very hard to be
Yeah, I can
conscientious
tell.
about like not
Being too nice.
But you be careful with that because
and
that can
setting
also be
and that's
naive.
something I'm very aware of, right? And so I try very like this is something I'm working on is like setting boundaries, like setting limitations, and like feeling comfortable like with those judgments and like feeling comfortable navigating these situations without feeling like guilty for these things because it sucks, right? It sucks a lot when you have to because I run into these not like these extreme situations but just in like general senses of like guys approaching or like guys making some kind of not necessarily like shooting their shot but it's this gray area, right, where there is this plausible deniability where it's like I don't want to always assume, like it feels very like I don't know, like presumptuous and kind of icky for me to assume that every guy is like constantly hitting on me. But like, it's just one of those things where, yeah, you have to kind of make some judgments about
You have to
safety
make judgment
first,
calls.
obviously.
So it's like
And
innocent until
navigating
proven
it.
guilty. Yeah, I think that's what you're going for. But this guy
And
was
then
like
I have
proven
the onus
guilty.
on myself to remove myself from the situation instead of like demanding that he leave the area, right? Like I think that's the difference in my mind.
You didn't
Like,
need to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
no,
when
Exactly.
it was happening, you could have said something like, dude, back off. Like, what are you doing? But like now that you're sort of like outside of the situation, if you feel like still like living where you are is a problem and you need to move, or I'm not quite sure what your situation is. I think you said that you're like living rough, like,
Nomadic.
quote unquote, nomadic kind of thing. Yeah, maybe
Love
living
the
rough's the wrong
Mongols.
thing.
Let's go.
Then if you feel that you might need to move because of this guy, it sucks. You shouldn't have to do that. That's
Yeah.
fucking lame. But
no, but the thing is,
unfortunately,
like,
that's
I'm
what we're
willing
doing.
to take that, yeah, and I'd rather take that, like, I'd rather choose to move and like choose to
Okay.
do like choose to do something on my end than like kind of assert that I have some, like that I have some kind of like claim to it because you know what I mean. Like, I think that would be what I wouldn't find appropriate.
How confident are you with defending yourself, like protecting yourself? Like, are you
Oh, I'm-
physically okay to protect yourself?
Yes, I'm
Okay, so you don't need
yeah,
like a pepper spray or something.
Oh, I have things
Okay,
that I can do.
okay, then yeah, like in that situation, like if you are like
If I had
combatively,
felt right, if I had felt like I wasn't able to like leave, or I'd felt like there was some kind of imminent, like he wasn't, because every time that I moved away, he would back away. So I didn't feel like he was like cornering me or that I was in some kind of like danger in the moment.
because that's like, bro, if I had to rank it on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is that? That's pretty fucking bad.
Solid 7 right
Yeah,
there.
it's 7. I would even. Well, okay. What is 10?
Because he's
Yeah, what
hanging
is
on
10?
with
Yeah,
you.
fair
Here's
enough.
the reason
Okay,
it's
yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
more than a 7.
Yeah, if
because
it's
there are
like 10, it's
probably
like
I was
it's
trying to
actual
say,
rape.
where you're
Okay.
like, oh,
like a
you know,
couple
maybe
weeks
maybe
ago.
there's something there. I don't know. Like this guy's probably thinking like, oh, I'm helping this chick out.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just
Well,
gonna
yeah,
grind
right. And
up.
I mean,
Hope
a couple
something
of weeks ago,
happens.
3 guys, when I was walking around the bar, 3 guys like
It's
followed me and
people
like
think
dumped
like
my
that, it's
purse out
ugly.
and like smashed my
Cringe.
head into the side of a brick wall and like tried to steal my stuff. And so like I'm
That's
familiar with
why
like
I
this kind
asked
of
you.
interaction.
Yeah, that's why I asked you how confident you are with
Yeah,
protecting
and I
yourself.
was comfortable. I was comfortable, kind of like
Okay,
navigating that
so that
situation.
also like kind of agrees with the fact that you behaved in the specific way that you did because you are confident that if anything were to escalate, you could take care of yourself. But damn,
Reasonably,
damn.
it depends on the situation. Obviously, I feel like I'm
Yeah.
a fair judge of like when my safety is at risk, and I'm
Okay,
somebody who's like
cool,
very
cool.
cautious.
Yeah.
about
That's the
those
I
main
mean,
thing for me.
moving forward from what you said, like my recommendation would be either to move, like you're saying, and just leave the situation, or stay where you are, but be prepared that if he does come up to you again, you probably need to say something like, what you did, like being that close to me was not cool.
Especially if
And
you're
the
so
other thing
confident.
is-
Yeah.
If you're
Hold on.
comfortable
You
doing
don't.
that.
No. This is horrible advice. Do not confront him about what he
No,
should
I'm
or
saying
shouldn't do.
that's why I'm saying
Figure out a
only
way
if you
to
feel confident. You didn't let me
disengage.
finish.
No,
That's what I'm
even
saying.
if
So
you
if she
are
doesn't feel
confident, this
confident,
is
then she
bad.
should
This will
move.
escalate. Don't
Well,
do
then she
this.
shouldn't
All you
leave
need to
then.
do is leave. You don't need to reprimand him. You don't need to explain past events.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
just need to disengage.
Yep.
And that was what I did. I've already, like I said, I'm already in a different area, and I've got.
It's the same thing like with a conflict between guys. First you disengage. It's like always number one, and then if they like come to attack you, then you protect yourself. Yeah, I have to agree with.
Yeah, but at
Mike.
no
And this is
point do you try
why-
to reprimand them.
No,
That
that's not
is
what I
always
said. I
gonna be
said
that.
disengage
I-
first.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying you did.
Yeah.
I'm saying
Yeah.
at no point should you ever try to reprimand somebody.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
not
yeah.
going to help you.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm a big
I think
fan
if
of
they're
I'm a big
physical,
fan of
then yeah.
training women in
Agree.
de-escalation, because I think when the conversation comes up around like telling women to like say no or like assert boundaries, there's so many times where, because there is this like plausible deniability, or because
Yeah.
things are a little like fuzzy, you don't, or if it's just because the guy's physically threatening, whatever it is, even if he's being actively aggressive, you don't want to stamp your feet and say no and like make a scene, because you don't feel like that's you want to de-escalate things, right? You want it to lower the tension and get away if you can. And so I'm a big fan of training women, alternate strategies to kind of like handle these situations, because like just saying no and just being assertive is not always the correct move, in my opinion.
I think the
It's not,
example.
but it often is.
Yeah, I think the examples he was giving was like with sexual contact, like come to my house and then how do it like before sex, and you obviously have to say no, with like to make it clear. Yeah, I think
I'm
that was the
thinking more
example he was.
in these situations, and they tend to be more I think actually one example that Erudite was talking about a couple weeks ago was when she was at a club with her husband and a few friends, and there was a guy who was basically kind of like going after these girls, not like really aggressively going after them, but just had them kind of in a situation where he was like kind of following them around, wouldn't leave them alone, was kind of getting a little handsy, but not enough that it was like over the line. And the girls were so uncomfortable. They didn't want to make a scene in the thing. They didn't want to, nobody wants to be the person that like draws attention to it or shuts down the party, especially if the guy can be like, hey, like all I was doing was trying to show you like, my SoundCloud rapping. And like I think that yes, it's different when you're in a situation where you saying no is, I'm not saying that we shouldn't teach women to say no and like assert their boundaries, but I think that there are situations where giving women alternate strategies and like having those something like that we explicitly talk about, I think it's important, because I don't think that just like emphatically saying no is always the right thing in every situation.
Yeah, of
but
course not.
obviously I feel like that's not.
Telling women how to modify their behavior in order to escape uncomfortable situations in which they are potentially being like boundary crossed. Is there a way we can teach young men to not fucking do that?
I think
That's a
we can.
bad
I think
angle.
it's something. I think it's something
Yeah,
that
that's a
like,
bad
we have to do
angle.
on both sides. I think we have to do it on both sides.
Where a young man is obviously violating boundaries. So you're saying that we do already. So he's either doing this on purpose.
Yes, that's what we're saying.
Yes, that's what we're saying.
Yes,
Yeah,
Let me
no,
give you
without
an, let me
being
give you an
willfully
analogy.
prohibited.
Let me
Yeah,
give you an
yeah,
analogy.
yeah.
Let me give you. Can I use an here's the analogy to teach you. So whenever we get someone in who has a history of smoking in the hospital, one of our things that we do is we teach them. We do something called smoking cessation education, right? We tell them you should quit smoking. You know what I've never heard in 10 years of doing this? Oh shit, I didn't know smoking was bad for you. Ever. They
Yeah,
all
that's
know.
why it's a bad angle. Yep.
Well,
They
all
all
right, so hold
know.
on.
Every rapist knows what they're doing is fucking
Yes,
bad.
exactly. And they know they're going to go to fucking jail if they
isn't
get caught,
true.
yet they still do
This
it.
is unfortunately untrue.
What?
There was a time in society when date rape was not seen as something that was morally wrong. I know that sounds crazy.
Yeah, do we live in that
There were
world?
periods of
So
time where,
so
yes.
people can literally do, like, they can violate boundaries willingly and still believe that they're not doing anything morally wrong. It's a spectrum of behavior. It entirely depends on the context of what it means to violate somebody's boundary. You can literally bump somebody in line and technically you have violated their boundaries, but we all think that that's very different than grinding your dick on somebody. Both are
I think there's
boundary
ambiguity.
violations.
I agree with you. I think, and we need to teach to the ambiguity, and we need to teach to those gray zones where, like, we're establishing like Why do we establish enthusiastic consent? This is why it's important, because you avoid those kind of gray zones.
And on the other side, for men, you say, listen, what you need to do is try to pick up on these signals of when somebody's doing something. And for women, it's, hey, you need to judge. If this is an extreme boundary violation, listen, almost all bets are off. You do what you got to do. But if it's something as casual as like, he bumped into me while we're in line, and I think he should have stayed a little bit further back. Well, then now you can assert a boundary, and it's reasonable that he's not going to beat you to death.
Agreed.
Do not approach a woman in a parking lot with her child.
And to be honest with
Or
you,
just in
although it
general
takes
in a parking lot.
Yeah,
Hello?
just leave
No,
them.
this is silly too.
Yeah,
Come on.
yeah,
Fol-
yeah,
no,
yeah.
when
Although
following
it's
somebody, I
messed
think
up.
there's a difference. I misspoke. Following somebody to following a woman alone to her car at night, even if you have good intentions, can come off as threatening.
Yes.
Hello?
What
Yeah.
would be the? I don't see what the good intention would be for that, to be honest.
Yeah.
It depends on why he's
she forgot
following
her
her. If
wallet?
he follows her
Yeah.
because somebody else was stalking her and he wanted to be like
Miss,
discreet and be
drop
like,
your wallet.
hey, listen, just so you know, you need to look out. This person is doing some nefarious shit, but I want to keep this on the download. That is highly unlikely, but it is an entirely possible situation
She
where
could
it would be
also have left
entirely
the
appropriate.
keys or a card or a wallet.
Right? She could have left something
Yes.
behind.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's well, you would
normally you would
likely
shout
flag
out.
them down.
Yeah,
You wouldn't
you would shout
necessarily
that
just
out.
follow them,
Right,
right?
right.
But the point is, there are situations, and they're likely not going to happen that way. So it's reasonable for you to presume if this person's following me at night in a parking lot, not saying anything, I should be really cautious right now. But it doesn't mean that it's inherently bad. So you
Yep.
can't just say, don't ever do this. This is never acceptable. Because if it is life or death or something like that, no, you might want to try. That's fine.
You'd probably want to have your hand on the pepper spray and like confront them from a distance and be like, "Hey, what do you want?" Like that would be like the thing. And then they would say, "Yeah, you dropped your wallet." And then that pretty much ends it, yeah. Or if they're not, then they're going to like, yeah.
I mean, I would
back
shout
off.
out before it even got to that.
Yeah,
point,
yeah,
because
that's what I
the
mean, bro.
situation
Like
could,
from a distance.
Miss, you've dropped your wallet or whatever.
Yeah, I know you
Man,
would. I know you
there's
would,
a
but
thing
maybe
on Twitter
somebody's
where-
like
where
an
this
introvert,
woman-
whatever.
Listen, if you're a
There was
man,
this thing
you're
on Twitter where this
approaching
woman was like,
you
a
yell
man
at her
said,
from
"Excuse me,
distance.
miss," and frightened me, and then I started yelling that at him until he walked away and was like, "What the hell's your problem?" Just making a joke.
That's just it. I mean, if
And then I appreciate that you
shouts,
guys.
"Miss, you've dropped your wallet," and then you start going and like they hold the wallet up and say, "Look, you can see it."
Yeah, yeah,
Like I think if you start kicking off at that point, then that's on you.
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
No,
definitely.
and I appreciate that. I appreciate that. That you guys have been very like understanding and like acknowledge that there's like reasonable. There are reasonable situations where like for women to be afraid or like to act in these situations, even if the guy has good intentions, because you know I have a couple of male friends who very much get very upset. They really feel like they're being accused of being, you know, these bad actors. Even if it's not happening to them all the time, I think they see things in social media, or they feel like the general sentiment is that like women are always going to perceive them as being malicious actors, or always going to like label them as a threat. And like to some extent, I think that I think some guys understand that by the time she's reached a certain age, almost every woman has been in a situation where she's been approached by a guy who's left her in a situation where she's felt like physically threatened or like physically uncomfortable to the point that she's been like scared, or like reasonably and like justifiably like scared. And so when you are approached, it's not that it's like, oh, I'm just looking at this guy and judging. It's like, okay, is this going to be a repeat of this situation? Like, is this going to be something? And it's unfortunate. It really is, and it sucks on both sides. So I really do appreciate, like, you know, the reasonableness and the understanding that you guys have kind of offered in this situation.
Yeah, I appreciate your patience with the situation as well, man.
They're so fucking.
If everyone was autistic, we wouldn't have to worry about any of this shit. All these weird.
Yeah, they'd be
social-
too antisocial, right?
You know, they would be known on the streets.
You guys ever jack off while watching a movie?
Yeah, porn movie. Yeah.
What's going on here?
Depends.
Like,
Who else is
maybe a
around?
porno movie,
No.
just jacking it, like in the living room with your family,
Just with the
while you
boys.
watch your family movie, just jacking it to
Bro,
fucking.
Yeah,
overpower.
whenever
if your
I watch
family's
Mrs.
there, why
Incredibles
are-
and I see
come on.
Mrs. Incredible's thick ass, I just can't stop myself.
Like
If your
the Austin
family's there,
Powers
why are
movie
you
with
jacking it?
Beyonce.
Why aren't they doing it?
Yeah,
No,
why
you're
didn't
just
your mom
jacking
jack it
because
for you?
Beyonce showed up on the screen in that Austin Powers movie, and she's
Wait,
in that
bro.
fine ass outfit, so you just start jacking
If you're
it.
there with your
You
family,
start
why isn't
Wow.
your mom
and
just
start
gobbling that
jacking.
greasy
Wow.
Well,
goober?
hold on. No, he
There
has
you
a
go.
full ass sister. So I don't understand why
How'd
he
you know
has.
What
how
do you
full
mean
her
full
ass is?
ass?
Wow.
You know damn well what
Why
I
are you-
mean
why
full
are you
ass. She
looking
was
at her
on
full
cam,
ass?
sir.
Wait,
My
what?
sister's underage.
Damn.
Why are you looking at her ass?
Whoa!
If
FBI.
this weren't BGG, there's so many good responses, but unfortunately, all of them are banned.
My man.
Sheesh.